Academy Award nominee, Adam Graves.
Thank you so much, Theo. Wow, and give it up to this film. Incredible. What a beautiful film. It's really quite an honor to be here. I can't see any of you, but yeah, really, this is an incredible honor. With one of the most distinctive voices of all time, Seal's had an indelible impact on pop, R&B, soul, and dance music. Along the way, he's collaborated with the likes of Joni Mitchell, Santana, Jeff Beck, countless others, and he sold over 30 million albums. Garnered not one, not two, not three, but 4 Grammys, and countless other awards. So, honestly, as one of the greatest singer-songwriters of my generation, the man needs no introduction at all. Give it up to Seal.
God, that was short, wasn't it?
Yeah, it went by too fast. I wish that song had extended for an extra couple minutes, that's for sure. So this is quite a different stage for you, I imagine. You know, I knew that you've appeared in film and in television, but typically as yourself. I didn't realize that you were such a gifted actor. Is there anything that Seal can't do?
That might be a bit of a stretch. But
no, really, I mean, it was an incredible performance. How did you come by way of the project?
Idris asked me. I've been a great admirer of Idris's for some time. Obviously, both of us being of African descent, but being born in England. And I think he initially became friends with my brother James, who's a director. And through James, he got in touch with me and he said, "Look, I've got this part and I think you'd be perfect for it." So it was more to do with the fact that Idris asked me. And you know, I'm old school, so when somebody who, you know, is in the arts, and especially somebody who I respect, if they ask, you know, you work backwards from yes, and you say, of course.
Did you check out the role first, or were you just like, let's do it?
Yeah, I mean, he told me kind of briefly what it was about, and I think with any of these things, any of these kind of creative endeavors, the first thing is, the first question you ask yourself is, well, can I bring anything to it? And if the answer is yes, then you know the second question is generally, can I find a piece of myself in the role? And you know, if the answer to both of those is yes, then that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that actually brings me to my next question, which is what piece of yourself did you find in the role? The theme. Well, let me have you answer that first.
Well, I think obviously being the fact that he was a musician and you know, and he was he got called away to service, but really his main focus was music, and that was his dream, and so I could see that, you know. I mean, there was more in the script to the character that actually wasn't portrayed in the movie, but I think there was a lot of kind of the transcending adversity and in kind of fearless pursuit of what you feel that you were put on this planet for. In which case, in Johnson's case, it was music, and so I could definitely see that part of my character in that. And obviously, you know, being of Nigerian descent, and the fact that we got a chance to shoot it in Nigeria was exciting. And so all of those things I think were major contributors in me kind of wanting to play the part.
The film deals with kind of the theme of inheritance and the kind of messiness and complications associated with inheritance, whether it be inheriting a family business or inheriting a legacy or in this case also a voice. I'm curious if that theme resonated at all with you as someone, as a musician with obviously a substantial legacy of your own.
Legacy, well, that's an interesting concept and one that don't really identify or really have any connection with, because legacy has never really interested me. You know, you often hear it talked about a lot, legacy, you know, what will be my legacy? Well, newsflash, 50 years from now, probably less, no one will know who I am, and no one will care. In fact, it could be even a lot less than that. You know, if I said to any of the people in this room, who was Louis Armstrong or Glenn Miller, you know, or Ella Fitzgerald, okay, some of you might know because they're musicians, but legacy, you probably know that they were just great singers or great trumpeters or great, that's it. So the concept of legacy is somewhat ridiculous to me, and it's never been something that's interested me. However, inheritance, obviously being a father, being a parent, and that's among my main purpose in life, or if not my main purpose in life. And so that definitely resonated with me. And the fact that he had this child, this daughter who was now a singer that he didn't know about, and that he came back and inherited this role of a father. I mean, that's something quite powerful, I think, because that along with that inheritance, that responsibility comes a different sense, or an ultimate sense of purpose.
Are your kids musical?
They are actually. They're all musical. We come from a very musical background. I mean, it's, where I grew up, for example, everyone could sing. Literally everyone. And everyone in my family sang. Everyone on my block sang. It was more unusual if you didn't sing. And so, and of course, I sang, and so, I guess I just got lucky. But the kids sing. I say the kids, they're not kids anymore. My eldest is 21, my second eldest is 20, and 19, and 15, and now 13. And they're all quite musical, which I'm really happy about. My son has a particularly good voice, but I spend half of my time trying to tell him that, look, Henry, being a singer is not exclusive to your father. It's actually open to everyone. And but it's tough for them, because they have a father that is known for being a singer. But yes, the short answer to your question is that they're all musical. And my youngest has been playing piano recently, for the last 2 nights actually. We've caught her playing piano. And I bring that up because she's had the piano for a while, or she's had access to the piano for a long time, and she's had piano lessons with a terrible music teacher. Well, I mean, I say that in a very, very matter-of-fact way, because a music teacher doesn't necessarily have to have good theory. What was it I heard something recently? Okay, my keyboard player, my drummer, I say keyboard player, my drummer, Drew, who happened to be a multi-instrumentalist, which is why I said he was a keyboard player. He's just one of these people, and it's so frustrating, so annoying, because he can play anything. Like, he just walks over to something and starts playing it, and and then he said, "Can you sing?" "Oh, I do a little bit of singing," and then he starts singing, and it's amazing, right? And he's just one of these people that's so gifted and so free and so unafraid. And I asked him, I said, "How did you get into music?" And I remember he told me something that really stuck with me. He said that he had these two great teachers at school, and on a summer break, they had a conversation, the two teachers, and they gave him his homework for the summer. Do you know what his homework was? They gave him Rumors, Stevie Wonder's Songs of the Key of Life, and I think it was Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And they said, "That's your homework."
Nice.
And so that's a great teacher. Those are great teachers, because I understood that would be more useful to him than anything. They didn't give him instructions, no manual, they just gave that to him. You know, it's like that scene in Almost Famous where, you know, Kate, I can't remember the last one, but she's leaving, Kate Hudson, she's leaving home, which is running off with the band, and she shouts to her brother, "Look under the bed, it'll set you free." And then he goes in and there's a box of albums, and that was the beginning of his journey. And so anyway, back to what you said, our youngest, she had a teacher that I didn't think was very good, you know, and access to musical instruments, but she would kind of, you know, and then recently she just started playing them by herself, and that's it. You see, that's kind of the approach you have to do with anything with kids. Is you can't, you know, that old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Well, it's so true with creative endeavors. You can't make, whether it's Henry, I can tell him everything, you know, until I'm blue in the face that he has a great voice and he should sing. And you know, I bought him a guitar, and I bought him this, you know, I bought all kinds of things, and he's sort of like, you got to let them come to it themselves. And you know, such is the nature of music that it has that lure.
Yeah,
will happen eventually.
You've just put to words the experience we had with our younger son, who's quite musical. Who, you know, he endured piano lessons as a 4 or 5 year old and hated it. And it was the quickest way to get him to dislike music. And then years later, you know, we had a keyboard in the house, and he just started tinkering with it, and then he became obsessed. And now, you know, it's his passion. Yeah. So you have to connect with it on a kind of more emotional level if you approach it by way of theory, especially for kids, you know. But what you're saying also resonates with this film. There's a way in which, of course, BC, if I'm saying it correctly, her character is reluctant to express herself. She's clearly a gifted singer. We know that early on. The mother at least believes that she's a gifted singer. But it takes this traumatic experience, her mother, the loss of her mother, and her rediscovery of her father to really finally get her to express that on stage. I just thought that was really a beautiful motif. And the way that music works, obviously, is a musical film. There are a lot of films that have music, but this film really, music provides both the source of healing and also the kind of source of like emotional resolution to the story itself. I'm kind of curious if, as an actor participating in this film, if you were able to express anything through that performance that you may not have felt able to express or through music. Like, are you able to explore anything differently in this context, in the context of cinema?
In the context of acting?
Yeah, in the context of acting, and also acting as a musical performer.
No.
Good answer. I kind of thought that might be the answer.
Well, no, I mean, I don't mean to be sort of, you know, party pooper, but no, music is everything.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, okay, look, I mean, you know, without meaning to sort of sound like a Nelly negative, but obviously this was an extraordinary experience, and one that I'm so proud to be a part of. and especially, you know, Idris, who I admire as a great actor, and I do have an incredible level of respect and admiration for actors in general, because it requires so much patience and so much focus, and a level of focus that is selective for me. I'm not saying that I don't have that level of focus, but it really is selective. I'm probably the most undisciplined artist you will ever come across, because it's not a job to me, and I'm not very good at you know, call times, and I mean, I do them. I'm never late. I never do stuff like that. But like, it's not something that I thrive on. It's not where I'm creative. Structure, I don't do well with that. And being an actor requires a lot of structure, and it requires other people. That's the biggest change. That's the biggest difference. It requires other people. It requires a lot of bureaucracy. It requires, you know, if you're in a scene with other musicians, sorry, Freudian slip there. If you're in the scene with other actors, it requires everyone to be in sync and everyone to be in harmony and to kind of do the thing at, you know, the word action. And then, last but not least, it requires you to be on every time and to do this thing that is rehearsed. And that requires a level of discipline and commitment and a different mindset, a different way to the way that my brain works. Okay, if I feel something, if I'm going through something, if I'm experiencing any kind of emotional event or advent in my life, I'm living it, I'm doing it, I'm going through it, I'm not really questioning it, I'm trying to be present, I'm trying to experience it. And then at some point, generally, but when I'm by myself, I'll pick up a guitar, or sometimes it won't even be a guitar. Like, I'll sing something, and then 5 minutes later, there's a birth of a song. Where there was nothing, now there is now this thing. To me, that is the phenomenon that has kept me doing music my whole life. It's the one thing that just never ever lets you down. It always listens, it's always sympathetic, it's always beautiful. And it's not even really a question of, you know, 1,000 people hearing it, or like, you know, or it being made into a movie, or even going to perform it in front of people. I got tons of stuff that will never see the light of day. But that's not the point. The point is the expression and that phenomenon that was there from day one, from the very first day I experienced that thing that music can do, this cathartism that music can do. There is, I mean, you know, I could lie and say, yes, I did experience something incredible directing, but no, music is everything, it's the ultimate.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One of the, well put, as a filmmaker, I tend to agree. I got to say, you win.
Well, no, it's not a question of a win. Honestly, it's not a question of,
I know what you mean, though. There's also something about, because music can be very collaborative, although it sounds like the experience you're describing is a very solitary kind of experience oftentimes.
Yes, however, but like my favorite part of music is the collaborative part. Because it actually is collaborative, it's just not collaborative in the same way.
Yeah.
That thing that I'm talking about, when it happens, and there is no kind of schedule for when that burst of creativity happens, it's been happening, it's just manifested. But it's been happening, like all of the things that have been leading up to it, the relationships, the conversations that you have with people, the things that you see, the meeting, this here tonight. this is, I am writing as we speak. This is the collaborative process of music. It's called life. It just happens to eventually find its way into a song. But it didn't just happen then. All that happened then was that I was open enough for all of this collaboration to come through.
That's really interesting. And I mean, I've always thought of film and cinema as being a very collaborative art form as well, but in such a different way, like you were alluding to. I mean, I think a lot of times audiences forget, if it's a good film, they forget the conditions under which the actor's working. There's a camera in your face, there are artificial lights bearing down, there's all this activity, this flurry of activity, and then when the director says action, you've got to go, and it's high pressure, you've got budgets, you've got a schedule, you got to keep, and I feel like, that's probably not optimal conditions for producing music if you're going into a studio to make an album.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because I've always found the studio literally the most unnatural place to create. Having said that, one thing that has always interested me, on one thing that I do love about acting, and is that they're very similar in that they're a performance. It's just that with film, okay, it's rehearsed and you're doing it over and over again. The one area of acting that has really fascinated me, and perhaps something I would do again at some point, is theatre. Because it's happened, it's a performance, much in the same way that music is a performance, or doing a concert. There is no cut, there's none of that. Like, you start at the beginning, and you know what, whether it's with your group of actors or with your band, you look at each other and goes, okay, here we go, I'll see you at the other end. And that's it. That theatre is something that I and obviously, like, with some kind of musical element, dare I say that, the M word, a musical. But that's something that's always fascinated me, a musical, because I could see that. Again, it's because it's this performance. And the reason why I like that idea more so than, I'm not saying I wouldn't do movies again, because you know the old adage, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, so you never know, but theatre interests me because I can't remember what I was going to say now, because it is this kind of, it's this performance, and the thing that I'm always trying to do when well, there are two main things that I'm trying to do whenever I perform or I'm doing a concert. The first thing is to connect, more so than anything else, connect. But in order to do so, ironically, you have to become, in some ways, disconnected. You have to get lost. You have to surrender, let go, and allow yourself to be lost. Now, it's not totally lost, because if you are good in your craft, and if you are a professional in your craft, you have done the work beforehand. You've rehearsed, you have gone through it, you have studied all the technical aspects of being a performer. You've rehearsed, you've gone through them, you've recorded them into your system. You know them so well, and then you get on stage and you are trying to let go. You're trying not. There's another one of my favorite sayings: technique is only there to prevent the soul from interfering with the body's free expression.
Nice.
And that's pretty much what music's like. It's you do the work and then you get lost. I would imagine theatre would be that way. You do the work, you do the rehearsal, and then you let go.
something magical about the stage also. The fact
Yes.
that you're
And
creating
it's
the
the
art. Theater
performance.
takes place there on the stage, where a film, you're making it piecemeal, and it feels perhaps in some sense clinical, because you're not,
Well, I'm sure not all film is like that. I'm sure, you know, again, I've had a very limited experience with film. And I was really well looked after by Idris. You know, he was just so amazing. And it comes as no surprise that Idris himself is very musically gifted, you know, and he just loves music. And so we were definitely able to meet there, and he understood me perhaps more than somebody else might have. So I was just very fortunate, you know, to have Idris at the helm.
What was it like working with him on set? Is there like a particular memory or instance that would be fun to share?
Well, it was, you know, what was it like working with him on set? Well, it was dynamic because I admire him so much as an actor. And I admire him as, and he's a good person, Idris, you know, more so than anything else, he's just a really good person. You know, and that's kind of, that was really important to me, like, more important than anything. And it helps when someone you admire is equally, if not a greater person. So it was, I stress that because it was very easy to trust him because I knew I was in good hands. So, and that is a key element of, I think, any kind of collaboration or production. I would imagine that must be a key element in, I mean, I don't know this of course, but in making a movie, I'm sure there are actors among us, and that must require a great deal of trust because you're vulnerable, and that vulnerability is essential in any kind of creative endeavor in order to achieve authenticity, which is at the very core.
Well, it seemed to me like you did lose yourself into in this role, and I mean your performance was just authentic and very natural and genuine. I think, you know, a lot of times if you see someone such as yourself in a film acting for the first time in a film like with this kind of a role where you're portraying someone.
I guess what you would call acting, yes. I mean, I've done, you know, cameo parts and things, but they've just been, you know, me.
But where you're really
Seal.
sinking. And this was clearly not that. You know, not at all. I mean, you really were transformed, and now that I've gotten to know you better tonight, I can see that you're a very different man than the one you portrayed in some ways. And even the accent, for example, did you work on that? Did the accent, for example, did you have to work on that, or is that something you're
no.
easily
Well,
just comes down?
No. Because my parents are Nigerian.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was just being my dad, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you give that second thought.
Yeah, and so no, the accent was really easy, and also just I'm assuming with acting you kind of have to draw from somewhere. But again, you know, it's funny. I say that they're very different, but music's like that, you know, or at least performing is like that. You're reenacting something, you know, or you're allowing yourself to be consumed by an experience, you know, usually something that made you write that song. I have a song called Prayer for the Dying, and it's a song that we perform quite regularly, and I remember, you know, in doing so, I remember what it was that led to me writing that song. So I guess in a funny kind of way you are acting. You know, I just never like to think of it as acting because, for some reason, because whenever I'm performing, sure, you know, I do all the seal shit and all the kind of, you know, the shapes and all that. I mean, but, you know, that's just kind of, you know, I do all of that stuff. But really, at some point, it's that and very quickly, that just goes and it's more, and you are reliving this thing and trying to get lost in it. And I guess that's a form of acting, it must be. You know, I don't know what it is that real actors go through.
Well, speaking of getting lost, I could get lost in this conversation. This has been a tremendous pleasure and honor to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. Congratulations.
is a privilege and an honor to do this movie, and I think that at the very core of it, the deciding factor for me to agree to do this part, other than the fact that it was Idris who I admire, is that it was taking place in Nigeria and being filmed in Nigeria. And of course, being of Nigerian descent and being seen as somebody who is Nigerian, who has made it, for whatever that expression actually means. I question that these days, but in any case, I digress. But made it, and having the chance to go back to Nigeria and do this thing, it was important to me that young people, young aspiring dreamers were given a chance to see someone who was not that dissimilar to themselves, and therefore given the chance to ask that all-important question, can that be me? Maybe I can do that too, and that was a big thing. I'm not sure I would have been that optimistic about doing it if it didn't involve going back to Nigeria, and therefore giving young aspiring dreamers, artists, the opportunity to show them something, to show them that the difference between myself and where they are is not as big as they seem.
Amazing. Is it screening, or will it be screened in Nigeria?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Very much so. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much. Beautiful.
Thank you. All right then.
Wow.
That's the dream. I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell your friends.
Yes.